Hello and welcome to the program which looks at the Holy Land. I am Paul Calvert. Psalm 133 verse 1 from the New King James Bible says this: Behold how good and pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. I'm with Jonathan Feldstein from Genesis 123 Foundation. Now Jonathan, tell us a bit about your organization.
Thank you. So it's really exciting. What we do is we build bridges between Jews and Christians with Israel in ways that are new and unique and meaningful. What that means is that we're not trying to compete or copy or duplicate what other people are doing, but find new ways of creating engagement between Jews and Christians and the land that's common between us.
Is it connected with Jews and Christians here in the land, or are you able to connect with Jews and Christians all around the world?
Mostly all around the world. I mean, certainly we have Christians with whom we're friends here in the land, native Israeli Christian Arabs as well as visitors, but we are engaged with people, I mean, literally all around the world. I'm trying to think, one of our most successful programs this past year was a 13-hour nonstop prayer event that began in China and went all the way through Alaska and Hawaii, so signifying that we've got a lot of friends all over the place.
You've been doing a lot of things on Zoom lately. Tell us a bit about some of those projects on Zoom.
Yeah, so we, like many places around the world, we had to go virtual a little bit in the past year because of the pandemic, and we started a webinar series called Inspiration from Zion, and that's the purpose of that is to connect people around the world with people here who they might not know even if they were visiting. But now, especially with the borders more or less still closed, we want to be able to create meaningful ways of engagement. And so we've had, dozens of programs on all kinds of different topics and people following from all parts of the world. It's really been quite fun and inspiring.
It's obviously the Bible that is connecting everybody together, Jews and Christians.
The Bible is one of those core things. The Bible, the land of Israel, the God of Israel, the Torah, what we call the Torah, which is 80% of the Christian Bible, is shared between us. So we certainly have that in common, and what we try to do through the Inspiration from Zion events, through our global prayer events that we've been putting together over the past year as well, also by Zoom and Facebook and YouTube, is to just try to make it as personal as possible, albeit while people are not able to be here in person.
Now, one of those links is Pakistan. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so last summer I was contacted. I've been friends with a pastor in Pakistan for some time, and that's always interesting, first of all, that a pastor in a country that is either at war or certainly doesn't have diplomatic relations with Israel would care about Israel, much less go out in public and state that. And she came on one of our programs and asked if she could pray. And it wasn't really suitable at that time. It was sort of the program was focused on something else. But that's what gave the spark to the idea of doing our global prayer, because I thought, my goodness, if we have a pastor in Pakistan who wants to pray for Israel, then surely there must be people who we know from all the rest of the world. And recently, she contacted me because of the pandemic, and they apparently have been hit really hard. She contacted me and asked if we could help her because they had a shortfall in cash this month, and they needed some help because she was in dire straits. And I put together an emergency campaign. Initially, I said no because it didn't seem like it was in my framework, but Genesis 1:2-3 foundation comes from the verse Genesis 12:3. And everyone knows, I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who curse you. But depending on the translation, it concludes, the families of the world will be blessed through you. And I thought, my goodness, here's an opportunity for us as Israeli Jews to be able to bless Christians in Pakistan. So how can I say no? And we started a campaign, and she needed several $100s, and we're well on our way.
Wow. Is there much persecution for Christians in Pakistan?
She's told me some things anecdotally. She's had problems. She's been assaulted. She has to balance celebrating and engaging as a Christian with the predominant Islamic culture, which is not typically Christian. She was also telling me she's studying for an advanced degree that requires her to study the Quran, which is really fascinating as well. But yeah, it's not an easy place to be a Christian, much less a Christian who is preaching and praying for Israel, preaching about and praying for Israel, and teaching her students to do the same.
Is she able to be open about Israel?
she's pretty open. If you look at the video of hers we have on YouTube, I mean, I don't know that she's talking about Israel all the time, but our personal interactions are completely unedited. She'll say what she wants. But when you look at the video that she recorded for our first global prayer for Israel, my goodness, it was so inspiring, not just as an Israeli, but for Christians to see the passion and the faith that comes forth from this woman in Pakistan.
Do Christians in general have a hatred for Israel in Pakistan, so this is even more unique because she actually loves Israel?
So that's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that. I suspect that Christians in Pakistan at minimum have to kind of toe the party line, and if they have love for Israel because they should as Christians, then they probably don't go out and hang a sign on their balcony that says I love Israel or put an Israeli flag on Israeli Independence Day. But she's unabashed about in the confines of her church and which spreads out to social media, that she's not embarrassed to say that.
So is it quite strange that you, as an Orthodox Jew, are wanting to help a Pakistani Christian?
It's definitely strange. A lot of my Jewish friends don't understand why I interact and engage with Christians doing what I do, much less somebody in Pakistan. But what's nice is that, I mean, it's not fake. It's my heart. It's what I want to do. I believe we need to build bridges. And if someone needed several $1 million, I wouldn't be in a position to do that without some kind of divine intervention. But for me to make a snap decision to put up a campaign page and ask all my followers to make a donation that would bring us several $100s for her ministry. And one of the things I especially liked about doing this is it was clear to me that she's not looking for regular handouts. She hit a shortfall because of the pandemic. She hasn't been working, and her father hasn't been working, and they typically fund the ministry out of pocket themselves, which I admire. So if someone's going to go and do that and put their own money, invest their own money into their ministry, and not saying, oh, let's make this Jewish guy in Israel our steady donor, I really feel very good about that.
Have you as an organization been able to help other persecuted Christians around the world?
Yeah, we have. We have run programs here for persecuted Christians in the land, and we define that as Israel and the Palestinian Authority. We've raised some money and given it out to organizations that help Christians here specifically. We also did something that was very cutting edge for Jews and Christians. Last summer, I believe, Turkey took control of a major former cathedral that was a historic landmark, something really quite extraordinary. They took control of it and made it into a mosque. Now, they've been allowed to get away with a lot in the last several years, and we led a petition drive to get people to say, no, that's not okay. You don't take over a Christian facility, even in a country that's predominantly Islam, and take it over and make it into a mosque. That's unacceptable. And it raised a lot of eyebrows, even among Christians, because Christians aren't as tribal as we are as Jews. So while Christians know that there's persecution of other Christians in other parts of the world, there's not an instinctive, or I should say a reflexive response that if a Christian is being persecuted in Pakistan or their property is being taken over in Turkey, that they as Christians need to step forward and be accountable and part of the solution. And therefore, how incredible that me as an Orthodox Jew comes into the picture and makes everyone agitated to do something.
Why has it been on your heart to help persecuted Christians?
I believe whether Jews and Christians share the same side of the coin or the opposite side of the same coin, we are the people who worship the God, right? There's not another God. I don't like to say the same God. Of course, it's the same God. He's the only God, and we're the only people who worship Him, who revere Him, and who follow Him. And so, with the growing trend that's now become much more commonplace in the last decades of Christians expressing their support and love for Israel, which is largely unconditional, it's important that that be reciprocated as well, that we support Christians, that we understand that a number of the enemies, if you will, of the Jewish people are also the enemies of Christians, and vice versa, and where we have a voice and an opportunity to stand up and express a moral perspective and instigate or be the catalyst for other people to step up and do something that's positive. It's just to me, it goes without a second thought.
Tell us a bit more about the Global Prayer for Israel series that you're doing, and how can people connect to that?
Sure. So all people can connect by going to the YouTube page of the Genesis 123 Foundation and see all of our videos, which include the Inspiration from Zion program that we've hosted, as well as, I think, 4 different global prayers for Israel. Typically, the global prayers have been around Jewish holidays. So the one that my friend in Pakistan was able to help be the catalyst for me to put together was this past fall, the first one. It was around Sukkot, Tabernacles, and we realized that Tabernacles is a big time that Christians come to Israel as part of a pilgrimage, part of visiting the land and events that take place here in Jerusalem. And that wasn't happening this year. So I wanted to do something that would express from a Jewish perspective that we still cared and wanted to engage. And that's where the idea, and I wish I could take credit for the architecture of this. We genuinely stumbled into it, so I can't take the credit. But honestly, in my whole life and career, it's one of the top 10 most extraordinary things that I've been a part of. Starting in China with churches praying for Israel in Chinese, singing Hebrew songs. Some of the churches are underground churches, and Christians who are listening know and understand that for an underground church to be public in general, much less specifically celebrating Israel and praying for Israel, is completely revolutionary. And then we just kept moving west, and we had 2 or 3 hours in China in Chinese, and then India in Hindi and English, and then we moved to Africa in English and French and Swahili, and then to Europe, and we crossed the Atlantic and went over to North America. And I'm American born, so naturally my orientation is to English speakers, but we had Spanish for our Spanish-speaking friends, both in the North America and in Central and South America. And it ended with something extraordinary, people praying in Alaska and Hawaii in their native languages, which I didn't even know. But I thought, wow, 13 hours nonstop. And then that was so successful, and there was a request as a result. Well, continue that. So our next one was during Hanukkah, and we had a different format, but it was still very powerful. I think we did 8 different segments of different parts of the world, because Hanukkah is a holiday celebrated over 8 days. Then we had one for Purim, celebrating the miracles of the book of Esther, and the most recent was a really spectacular 4-part series for Passover. And it's been awesome. And Jews and Christians coming together and sharing what we have in common and praying to our Creator, it's incredible.
It must be amazing to hear people from all around the world just praying.
The one that blew me away the most, it was the one prayer we had recorded sent from Congo in Swahili. I can figure out a little bit of French and Spanish and Portuguese and probably Italian from my English. I don't know a thing about Swahili, but I could see the passion of this man. And every couple of words I would understand, because it was Israel, and Israel is common, or something of that nature. And that was the one that blew me away. But also the Chinese Christians. I didn't understand a word of that. That was not even close. But the fact that there were underground churches participating, that's why I said that first one was by far in the top 10 things that I've done in my life. And that was the catalyst for then me saying, wow, we have to continue this. This was not a one-time event, but this is something that needs to be ongoing.
Now, I live in Bethlehem. You live in Gush Etzion. We're actually neighbors because we're next to each other. Tell us a bit about Gush Etzion.
Gush Etzion is a region south of Jerusalem, actually just in between Jerusalem and Hebron. If we were to leave my house and drive 25 minutes to the north in no traffic, you'll hit the center of Jerusalem. If you do the opposite and drive 25 minutes to the south, you'll hit the center of Hebron. It's a mountainous region. In fact, if you look out the window, you'll see ancient aqueducts where water was provided from here, because it's higher elevation, to the temple and to ancient Jerusalem. Gush Etzion in Hebrew means the Etzion block, and it was an area that's obviously, I refer to it as the original Bible Belt. This is the biblical playground. If we look out the window over there, that's where David hid from Saul, and if you look over here, it's where Ruth or Boaz courted one another. And the dirt road that goes between the communities is the ancient biblical highway. So this is where it happened. It's inescapable. And in the 1920s, as Jews started coming back to the land, 4 communities were established here in the Etzion block, the region of this part of the Judean mountains, thrived here really well until the 1940s, when it became difficult to live here among our Arab neighbors, who were then mostly Jordanian or controlled by the Jordanians. And all the Jews were either arrested or killed just before Israel declared statehood in 1948. And between 1948, May of 1948, and June of 1967, no Jews lived here. After the Six-Day War, because of the deep roots, not just modern history, but of course biblically, Jewish communities started coming back and reestablishing themselves and flourishing, and now it's a region that has probably 100, maybe even 125,000 Israeli Jews living, and we intermingle with Palestinian Arabs. I wouldn't say that there's love, that everyone's running around hugging each other all the time, but there's certainly respect and coexistence, and I tell people, don't believe what you read or see in the media. You come and see for yourself how the coexistence really plays out.
You got a supermarket very close by as well, coexistence?
Correct. You go into the supermarket and you see Arab and Jewish employees working together alongside Arab and Jewish customers. And because we are in the kind of critical and somewhat sensitive area militarily, there's a lot of army presence, and per capita probably more people are armed, more Israelis are armed. And so it's not uncommon to see Palestinian Arabs working and interacting and shopping alongside Jewish Israelis who are carrying weapons. And no one feels any sense of discomfort. It's just the normal way of living here. If you go outside of my community, you'll see Arab-owned businesses, all kinds of businesses that advertise in Hebrew, and only in Hebrew, because they know and understand that our presence here is good for their livelihood and for their business. And right here out my window, there's a new construction project. Hundreds of people come in from all the surrounding cities and villages and are gainfully employed. Matter of fact, one really interesting thing, talking about the pandemic, during the first closure, which was an extended period here last spring, the Arab laborers who are not Israeli citizens received half their salary while they were not able to come in and work by their Jewish employee. And this was not the only case.
Today we've been to see an oak tree. Tell us a bit about that.
The oak tree, it's called the lone oak, and it's at the center of what was the original 4 Jewish communities here in Gush Etzion. It's now a 600 to 700 year old tree. It's magnificent. It's still in beautiful condition, and it sort of became legendary as the anchor of those 4 communities through up until the 1940s. And because it's so old, it was obviously there for some period of history, and it saw a lot of history that was unfolding here in the land. And when the Jewish communities were uprooted and driven out in the 1940s, that became sort of the central focus point that we needed to come back to see the tree. We needed to be able to see. And from Israeli communities on the other side of the Green Line up until 1967, I'm told that you could see the tree because it's that big and the landscape works, and people prayed to be able to come back. So as soon as the Six-Day War ended and Israel recaptured this area and Jewish communities started coming back to reestablish themselves, the central point again was around that oak tree. And there's one community that was a new community from there. It's called Alon Shvut, meaning we've returned to the oak. And it's kind of central. If we drove past the, I didn't point out, the winery here, the Gush Etzion winery, which makes a really lovely bunch of wines. And their logo is the tree. Wow. On the bottle, yeah. Wow. So I invite people listening, when the borders open, to come and visit, and we'll go drive around. And if you like a good cold Chardonnay or a rich Cabernet, we'll go and have a glass of wine together.
What's your prayer, finally, for Jewish-Christian relations?
My prayer is that it continue and grow, and that from the Jewish side and the Christian side, that in my lifetime, that it be something that's not so remarkable, that we sort of wake up and we're used to it, as compared to be astounded at the fact that there are Orthodox Jews like me who engage Christians on a daily basis out of mutual respect and vice versa. And that we understand that we have much, much more in common and need to collaborate and serve God from our respective traditions, but honoring and supporting one another all the time.
What's your website and Facebook page for people who'd like to know more, particularly the Global Prayer for Israel?
Sure. So the website is genesis123.co, And both on Facebook and YouTube and all our other social media, it's Genesis 123 Foundation.
Okay, Jonathan, thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be with you.
Thank you for joining us today. Pray that God will move by his mighty power in the Holy Land and bring his peace.